Hello, everyone, and welcome to another week of image critiques from morethanasnapshot.com. It's been a rough week. I have to apologize about a delay in this video being released. I tried doing it the other night, and something went wrong, and the computer crashed, and I lost all the work, and I even had to rebuild Lightroom. So, finally back up and running. Hopefully, this recording will go smoothly, and I can't wait to see all of your great images. We have a lot of new people this week, and that's nice. Welcome to the class. I see a lot of nice self-portraits that we have to look at, and that's what we'll be starting with today. A nice self-portrait here. I'm going to make the screen size a little larger so that we can see more of the image. All right, so let's get started. Here we have a self-portrait. Oh, let's see if I can get rid of this toolbar. Okay. All right. Here we have a nice self-portrait, and I like the idea of what you've got going on here, using the frame to frame your face. Very creative. I like it on the tilt that you have it on, and you did a good job of lining it up with your face. If you did this all by yourself, some small technical things like that can be tough to do to get things perfectly lined up, and it looks really good how you have it set up. If I had to look for some things to critique, would be the lighting. It seems like maybe you used a flash. I see a little light in your eyes. The lighting is not bad, but it's a little flat. It's a little bit directly on your face, and therefore it casts a shadow here on the bottom. And you must have been using a high ISO because you can see some noise in this picture. Yeah, and I don't have any metadata to check that out, but we can definitely see some noise. But other than that, good job. I like what you've got going on here. As far as composition-wise, like I said, this part here is great. You have a nice simple background. If I did have to complain about something in the background, it would be this white shelf is kind of merging with your frame. If you could have avoided that shelf, it would have been a little bit better, I think. Good job, and welcome to the class. And here we have another self-portrait. And here you can see, wherever you see red, that is an area that's overexposed. So here on our histogram, you can see on the right side, there is a peak here that's showing you that there is also something overexposed. So in this picture, we could bring in the highlights to try to recover some of that, and it did do a pretty good job. But even so, you can still see that there are areas that are very bright. And this comes from shooting in the bright sun like this. So what I would suggest is next time you try something like this, find some open shade. So open shade is an area that's in the shade but is right next to open light from the sky. And you'll have much nicer, softer light on your subject. You won't have the hard shadows that you get from direct sun, and you won't have the bright highlights that you get from direct sun. So other than that, the exposure, the sharpness is good, and the framing is fine. Maybe you could have avoided having this building in your picture, but you do have a nice simple background. So a lot of good things about the image. Just try to find yourself some softer light, and you'll like your image much better. Again, welcome to the class. Here we have a nice little artistic flower image, and we have some great dewdrops, and the exposure and everything look good. And let's just first say that this is a very nice image, but if I had to look for some things to critique about it, technically the main subject should be on the right side, because our eyes come into the image. We read an image from left to right, just like we read words. So our eyes come into the image, we hit this thing, and then we kind of go out of the image. And we never really get to explore the rest of this. Except that there is some white objects here in the background that anytime you have something white or bright in the background, that kind of grabs our attention. So these things here could be pulling our attention away from the main subject. So I would say if you want to have this soft background type of a shot with it off center, it probably should have been on this side. Although in photography, rules are made to be broken, so it is you will see plenty of shots that have the subject on the left side. It's not necessarily wrong. If you were being judged in some sort of a competition, though, they probably would deduct points for that. One way to deal with the white spots here would be to darken them down in whatever image editing software you're using, or choose a different crop. One thing we could do is just crop for a close crop of this flower itself. And we'll try something like that. That is also a very nice shot. As far as depth of field goes, now that we can see it up close like this, you can tell that the top of this plant is in sharp focus, and then it goes out of focus in the back. Again, this is not necessarily wrong, but usually you want at least the main subject to be in sharp focus all the way through. So if you had picked a smaller f-stop, maybe you could have gotten the whole plant in focus. Or maybe chosen an angle where more of the plant is in the plane of focus of the image sensor of the camera. That will make it easier to get the whole plant in focus. But other than that, I'm just looking for little nitpicky things here. It is a very nice image, and you did a very good job. I like seeing all the little water droplets and the fine details here. It's very nice, and you do have a nice soft background. Here we have a nice image, a great storytelling image. I love it in black and white. You did a really nice job here. It looks very artistic. We have nice soft light. I love the black and white quality. So great job, and a great idea for your self-portrait. I'm assuming mother interacting with baby. It's very nice. If I did have to look for things to critique about it, I would say that the baby is in deep shadow, so we almost don't see the baby. So what you could do is you have nice soft window light coming in here, and that's working well on the person's face. If you put a reflector over on this side to bounce some light back onto the subject, it would add a little bit of highlight, or it would brighten up this side of the image. Also, we might crop some of the top off. We have a lot of stuff on the top that may not be adding to the story. A little bit tighter crop there. Something like that. I could probably pump up the midtones a little bit, and that did brighten things up just a little. I would take down the highlights just a little more, so that we don't want this reflection in the window to get brighter. If I were to continue to work on it, I might use the brush tool, and the first time I use it, I might take down just a little bit, take down the exposure on the reflection, just so that that does not overpower the subject. So I'll take that down just a little bit. We don't want to make it too obvious that we did. Okay, and then I might get a new brush and, like I said, take up just a little bit the face and the baby. Alright. Let's see how much we go and bring it up. Alright, just a little bit. And I have to do a little erasing because I have some overspray here on this side. Alright, so some minor adjustments here, but overall I really love the image. I like how even that your legs kind of are starting to come blurred out of focus. It's like you used an old toy camera and shot a black and white photo. So, if this was, for your first attempt in doing your self-portrait, a very nice job. Good luck and welcome to the class. Another nice self-portrait. I really like how you showed your environment, and it's something that we can tell that you really like. You have your computer with your photography stuff and your printer, and you're even showing that my video on how to do a self-portrait, so that's a really cool idea. I think that's great. And the exposure is very good. We don't have any exposure problems. I just brought up the highlights just a little to bring it up to this line on our histogram. So I just made it a little brighter. If I had to look for things to critique about it, is that you probably used your on-camera flash, so the light's a little flat, so meaning that the light is very even all over everything. Front lighting is not necessarily, it's not that it's bad, it's just that it does not show any shadow, so we don't get as much dimension. If we had to look at the focus in the image, this is a little bit of a problem. So I don't know if you use the technique in the video for focusing, but it suggests that you put something in the spot where you're going to be standing or sitting, and then manually focus on that spot, and then you can go into that spot and take the picture. I don't know if you tried that or not, but you can see here that the computer in the background is really nice and sharp, and your eyes are not. And even this paper and stuff in the background you can see here is really nice and sharp. So that tells me that you focused on the background and not on you. And the thing in the picture that really needed to be sharp was your eyes. So if you want to try it again, try practicing getting better focus on your eyes. And if you can take your flash off the camera, some cameras have a way of wirelessly triggering the flash. You could put the flash a little off camera and get a little more of side lighting instead of direct straight on lighting. But other than that, a great job for your first attempt. It's a very good exposure. And again, welcome to the class. All right, here we have a very nice image. Since this is the second time I run through this, I'm not sure. This might be my edited version of it. Let's see. Yep. All right, so you can see what I did is I like the composition of the image. I just thought that it needed a little bit of contrast, so I pumped up the contrast. And I added a little bit of vibrance to add a little bit of saturation to the colors in the trees and things like that. And I took down the highlights just a bit because there was some overexposure on the wakeboards, paddle boards. So if we, again, compare them, you can see this image looks kind of very flat and not very vibrant. And so in this image, I think the contrast and the vibrance help to make the image pop a bit more. The other thing that I would say the differences in colors. In some pictures it helps to have some color harmony. So here we have green boards, white boards, and then pink shorts and blue shorts. And I know you have no control over that when you're taking the picture unless you bring the models with you. But one thing you could do in image editing software is change the color of their clothes or change the color of their boards. If we want all the boards to be the same color, it adds a little more color harmony to the story. But it is a very nice storytelling image, and I really like the composition you have. So, great job. All right, here we have before and after, some Photoshop work. And we've got a beetle on a plant here and some flowers in the background. And in the original shot, we had a lot of emptiness here on the left side. So when we look at the after, I think you did do a good job of choosing to crop it to get rid of that empty space on the left side. And I really do like that the three flowers make a triangle. Anytime you can make shapes with your compositions, in this case triangles, it really helps. And here we have an example of that color harmony I was trying to talk about in the last picture. You change the color of the flowers from yellow to an orange color, and I think that really does help because it matches better with the orange color of the beetle. It gives it more color harmony to the photo. Now, artistically, I think that is better. On the downside, if you had someone viewing your image that was really into flowers, they may not like the fact that the flowers is not the right color. I don't know this particular variety of flower, if it comes in orange or if it only comes in yellow. But if you had someone that was into that sort of thing, like possibly a nature photography judge, they may not like that you changed. Well, certainly in a nature competition, you couldn't do that anyway. But someone who was into flowers might not like that you changed the color of the flower. The other comment I would make about this image is I think it's two different images. When you look at the composition of an image, you should say a single word or a single phrase that sort of sums this up. And to me, I see beetle and I see flowers. I don't see a combination of the two necessarily. Maybe if the beetle was on the flower, then it would work well. But since the beetle is out in front on this green stem, it seems like the beetle is a picture all of its own, and the flowers are a picture all of their own. And I think individually they would both be strong images. But together, the way it is with the beetle sort of all crammed up in the bottom corner, I'm not sure. I really like, as if pretend the beetle and this plant stem were not there at all, the three flowers alone make a very nice image. Like I said, you have them lined up in a very nice way. And if you had a super macro shot of just the beetle and the stem, that would make a great image also. So I think you have two great images here, just not necessarily together the way it is right now. Now, I believe from reading the description that this person was practicing with focusing, so it's not necessarily for an artistic shot, it's just for practice with using probably the AFS, which stands for autofocus single, using the camera to focus once and stay focused on that point. And it does look like it's in focus. It's not probably the best image to use as an example of this because you have a lot of depth of field here. We can see that this stuff in the background is in focus. So we really can't so much tell if one particular thing is in focus more than another. Everything sort of seems to be in focus. That could have been because you were far away from these subjects, could have been because you used a small f-stop, or it could have been a combination of those two things. So I think your next shot, if that was for the same purpose, this one, is better for that reason. Because now we can see that, yes, you did lock focus onto the moving object and the background is out of focus. So that lets us confirm that much more easily. And I think this is also a stronger image. It's interesting, the bike rider going through the frame. We've got some blurred motion of the wheels, which is important because it's part of telling the story. It tells us that the bike rider is moving and coming down through the frame. I don't know if it's because I'm left-handed or what, but to me it feels like the bike rider should be going the other way. It just feels off to me that the bike rider is going to the left, but that just could be my brain. If you want to leave comments about what you think about that in the description of this. Also, I did make a little bit of adjustments to this image. I probably pumped up the mid-tones, and there is a slight bit of overexposure there. And I think I took down the contrast a little bit. So if you want to see what the before and after looked like, your original image was much darker. And like I said, I brightened up the midtones and I took down the contrast a little bit, and I ended up with something like this. Maybe I took down the contrast a little bit too much. So let's see if we put some contrast back in. Yeah, I mean, that works well too. So I just thought that yours was a little on the dark side. All right. This is not the original image. Again, I had done something to it, so I'll reset it. This is the original image. And I really liked this image when I was looking at it through, the thumbnails. There was something about it that kept drawing my eye to it, and I think it's these red-colored flowers in the foreground. So I think you had the right idea. You have some interesting foreground, you have some middle ground, and you have an interesting background. I just think that the boat itself is too close to the flowers. The flowers are interfering with the boat. Maybe if the boat had been up here somewhere, that would have worked better. But I think that you can still salvage this image. These sticks here and this flower, they're not really adding anything to the image. And if we assume that the boat is really not helping the image here, then we could say that the image is the flowers and this highlight. And if we were to crop this down for something like that, that's what we end up with. And let's assume here, let's pretend that the boat is not here. But even with the boat now, it's a little less distracting not seeing all that stuff on the right. But I do think it was a nice image. All right. Oh, here's one that I made some more adjustments to also. Let me go back to the original. So here we have some mute swans in fall. And we can see there's a little bit of overexposure on the feathers. So we can take in the highlights a bit. What I would suggest is anytime you shoot something that has white detail in it is to use your exposure compensation and darken it down just a little bit. Maybe minus 2/3 of a stop. Just in case. In this case, you're better off being a little bit underexposed than you are being overexposed. If you blow the detail in the feathers, you're not going to get it back. So if you have it a little bit darker than it should be, you can always use your image editing software to brighten it up a little bit. And I thought this was a cool image. I think that the composition would be stronger if it just focused on these three birds, because these three are making a nice pattern here. And these two over here are sort of out of the way to the left side. So they are, to me, they don't fit as well with the rest of the story. So I would crop this to get rid of those two on the left side. Whoops, I don't want to make it into a tall shot. All right. And if we want to include the reflection, we can even do something like that. All right, so I might do something a little bit more like that. So now it concentrates the story on just those three. Now, some other composition things here. I like that they're in a triangle pattern. That is really nice. They do seem to be nice and sharp, and most of the exposure is fine, except for that little extra highlight, overexposure on the highlights we had there. But we do also have another little problem, is the tail of this bird is merging with this bird, and the neck of this bird is merging with the tail of that bird. That's just a matter of timing and angle. It would have been just a little bit better to find the spot where they were not touching each other in the photo and still have this triangular pattern. Although I do really like how this bird is fluffing up its back wings like this. It adds to the story. Okay, here we have some images in what appears to be a very nice park. The overall exposure looks pretty good. We do have some blown highlights in the clouds. This maybe have been an HDR photo. I'm not, but either way, it's nice. We do have sort of a leading line here, this river going through. But I'm not really finding much of a focal point. What is the point of the image? What is the main subject? I'm not really feeling that, and I think that's where this image is weak. Now this image is gives us more of a feeling of having a main subject, and that would be this tree with the reflection of the tree. Again, we have a little bit of overexposure here, so I think this one is a little bit stronger. And same with this one. And this one. These are all fairly similar. Oh, I think I did something to this one. Let me reset it. Alright, so this must have been the original image. This one does have a stronger main subject, this tree up here in the front. But we still have the same problem. We have some overexposure in the clouds in the sky. And it's not bad. Now, of the bunch, I think so far, I like this one more because we have a main subject. It has an interesting round, oval around it. And I think what I had done to this image was I thought that it was a little bit oversaturated. So I took down the vibrance so the colors are not quite so... I thought the yellows and the greens were very heavy. So I took that down just a little bit, and so are the blues in the sky. Maybe you could bring up the midtones just a little for a little more brightness in the foreground. And then we'll bring back the highlights because we do have some overexposure in that rock wall over there. Bring that back a little bit. And I think this is a nice composition with an interesting main subject. Here, this would have been a great shot of this heron. But there's a problem, unfortunately. When you zoom in, you can see here that the heron itself is not very sharp. And for a wildlife image, that really kills the shot. But on the other side of things, you caught a very interesting bird on a very interesting perch. And so, I could definitely see why you would like this image. This sort of thing happens to me all the time. You find an image that you've taken that you really love for a certain reason. Like if I had taken this image, like I said, I would really love it because it's a really great bird on a really great perch. It had so much potential of being a great image, and then the frustration of it not being perfectly sharp. Sometimes that happens. This one I thought was nice too. The fall colors look great in this one, and I like how this bridge and this pathway are a leading line, and even the river here is a leading line. I think maybe there's too much in the image. We have, besides the path and the river, we have all kinds of trees on both sides to consider. I think also it might have been cropped a little bit too tight on the bottom. Would have been nice to see a little bit more leading into the bridge at the bottom. But this also was one that I liked out of that group of park images or whatever this place is. This is a really cool place, and I'd go and try to shoot some more details there. I noticed a lot of your shots were wider landscapes. I bet there's a lot of nice details that you could get out of this spot too. Alright, so here we are with a person on the bridge, which is very nice. And I would say try to find a different spot for the person, because you can see here the person is directly aligned with this tree in the background. Would have made for a little bit stronger image if the person was in a spot where they had nothing behind them. Like, so moving him forward a few feet, putting him in this hole probably would have been better. Also, the light looks like it was getting to be nice light. We have warm light coming from the side, which is nice, but it was not very strong, and so a lot of him is not lit up. So we would, in the post-processing, would probably try to brighten that area up a little bit, at least his face. No, I may have overdone it. All right. Something like that, so we can see his face a little bit better. And I think that you could crop some off the right side. So I will come in a little bit on that side. maybe something like that. Here we have a different view of it. And again, I think the lighting looks a little bit better on him. I still think we have too much on the right side, so I would crop some of that in. And we have a little bit too much on the bottom, so we'll crop that in a little bit tighter. And the only other annoying thing is that these sticks are blocking the bridge and in some places coming over on top of him. So if you could have found an angle, maybe more from this way where these branches were not in the way, I think that would have helped. This would not have been a distraction. I like this one. We have the little river here as a leading line. We have some interesting light going on in the grass. Again, I think the greens are a little heavy, but we'll just take it down just a little bit with the vibrance. And I think it's a little heavy in this bottom left-hand corner, so I would crop out some of this stuff on the left. Let's see if I want to see if we can get the 4x6 just to keep it the same aspect ratio. Yeah, it's a little less heavy on the left side. All right. Here we have some nice warm light on these trees and a nice little park bench. And I think that the story was, I think the interesting part of the picture is the bench and the interesting trees. So I would go for a much tighter crop here. Again, I'll try to keep it at 4x6 and I'll come down. To something like that. To me, that's where the shot is. And here we have the bench in the third of the frame. And I like this tree, the curly branches that this tree has and this tree has. And we still have a little bit of fall color here in these leaves. Now this image I really like. We have that strong central subject, the wishing well, and then the nice fall foliage in the background. But even still, I think I might... did I already crop this one? Let me just make sure. Nope, okay. I still might crop this one a little bit. Because just to get rid of that tree on the left side, we could go to something really tight like that. Or I kind of like seeing... a lot of the trees that are there up here. So maybe, just for the heck of it, let's try it as a vertical. So I'll unconstrain the crop and I'll try it more like a vertical. Nope, I did not unlock it. And I'll try to get rid of as much of that sky as I can. And something like that. Yeah, I think I like that. That's very good. All right. Here we have the State House, I believe. That's a nice image. Again, it might be an HDR because we see a lot of blues and greens. But I like this image. It's pretty nice. You can probably use, if you have Lightroom, there is some tools that can help you straighten out whenever you take a landscape. Whenever you take a architecture shot with a wide angle lens. Sometimes it distorts the building. And where did my tools go? Camera calibration, no. Oh, okay, here under the lens corrections, we've got some basic tools here that will sort of auto correct. Sometimes auto will work and sometimes it didn't. I don't think the auto helped here, so I'm going to shut that off. So I'll try the vertical. See how that straightened out the building? There's also a level. I don't think that one helped. And then there's a full. And I think out of the group, the vertical of the automatic ones, the vertical one did probably the better job. But if those automatic tools are not helping, there is a section with manual. And you can adjust the distortion. You can change the vertical and the horizontal. And you can even rotate. We don't need to rotate on this image. The scale. And the aspect. So I think that the two things that helped this one were the vertical and the aspect, because the vertical helped straighten out the building, and the aspect helped to widen it out so that it doesn't look all squished. Now after you're finished doing that, you gotta click Constrain Crop to get rid of the parts of the image that it added some white space to. So if I take a look at the before and after, you can see here in the original image, the building, the portico up here looked really squished in and wasn't perfectly straight. And I think here this really widened it out a little so it doesn't look so squished and straightened it out a bit. So those are the lens correction tools. Under the basic tab, there are some automatic ones. Under the manual tab, you can fine-tune them with individual sliders. Okay, same thing for this image. I like these images. I think they're nice. I like having the trees sort of framing the building there. A little bit of overexposure in the clouds, but not bad. You could probably easily use the highlight tool and bring some of that back. And here we have a nice picture of a bee on a flower, a sunflower, and the bee itself is very sharp, which is the critical part to this. And the bee is really adding interest in not just a plain sunflower shot. And we have a lot of the sunflower. The closest part of the sunflower to us is also sharp, which is really nice. And then it falls off into out of focus. So in this case, that's perfectly fine. It's like having a blurred out background. I like the composition that you chose. I really like that the center of interest is a little bit off center with our rule of thirds, and then it goes out of focus back here. If I had to worry about something in the image, it's this hot spot right here. This white spot is really drawing my eye away from the bee and the front of the flower. And then there's a little bit of a white spot up here. So you could do a little bit of cloning to get rid of that. In Lightroom, I could try the spot removal tool. It's not the best cloning tool, but in a pinch, quick, it'll probably do okay. And I think I'll get rid of this spot too. And I might even get rid of these two spots down here. That one needs to be bigger. And let's see how that looks. Alright, you get the idea. It doesn't look good. We can see the circle, but if you took your time and cloned it, you can see just by blocking those white spots there, it really prevents our eyes from automatically shifting over to those spots. And it keeps our attention on the bee and the important part of the picture over there. So that is also very nice. And that is our last image. So thank you everyone who submitted photos, and I'd like to welcome all of the new people to the class. I really liked your work. You're getting off to a great start. And sorry for the delay on this, but we had some technical problems. And again, anyone who would like to join our class, you can do so by going to morethanasnapshot.com, and you can have your images critiqued weekly. Plus, you get worksheets and you'll get videos, a full class on learning more about digital photography. So again, this has been Gary D. Tonencourt from morethanasnapshot.com, and we will see you next week or whenever we have enough images for the next critique. Thank you very much.